new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire, the no-show. Who set you back because they didn't show up on day one, or day two, or ever again. And now your product launch is delayed because you're talking to alien abduction podcasters to track them down. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can help make sure your next hire sticks. In fact, businesses who use LinkedIn are 24% less likely to reopen a role in the next 12 months. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I am your host, JoAnn Crone. Hello, my Lolas. How are you today? We have a great guilty episode for you today, or rather, let's make you not guilty. But do you ever want more for yourself? Like maybe it's more time. I hear that all the time from my inner circle members. You just want time to yourself where you don't feel guilty, or you want some time to actually focus and improve on your career without feeling guilty for wanting to work more. And today's guest says that guilt isn't a personal failing. So there is nothing wrong with you. Guilt is what happens when women are handed expectations that are impossible at home and at work and told that the only fix is to want less. I mean, have you ever been told, you're just too ambitious? You're too ambitious. Well, let's stop that today because Dr. Ann Welsh is a psychologist. She's an executive coach and a working mother who has spent her career helping high-achieving women navigate ambition alongside parenting. Her work comes from both her professional expertise and lived experience. She is a mom herself, and she gets the invisible pressure of having to succeed at work and be fully present at home. It's an impossible thing to do. And Dr. Welsh pushes back on the myth that moms have to choose between success and actual sanity. And she offers a research-backed approach to do that. Doesn't that sound cool? Her new book is called Ambitious Mother. And we are getting into the moment her own mom said something that cracked open everything she thought she understood about motherhood. Listen to why just do less is terrible advice for moms who are drowning, and how you can hand off responsibility at home without still being the one who gets the call when something goes wrong. I mean, that's the dream, right? I hope you enjoy my conversation with Dr. Ann Welsh. Let's get on with the show, Lolas. Welcome to the podcast, Ann. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here today.
I always love talking with other women who have books coming out. I'm a total book nerd, and your book, Ambitious Mother, is coming out right around the air date of this episode. Like, I want to know, like, how did you get into this work? What is your story about why Ambitious Mother needed to be written?
It's a great question. And I think it, on the one hand, it goes back years and years and years and years and years. Like in terms of the actual writing, it was probably within the last couple years. But really, I think the first seeds were planted when my third kid was a baby. So I have 4 kids. They're all about 2 years apart. But I had this moment when I had 3 little ones. So I had an infant, a 2-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And at the time, I had a private practice in psychology, and I do maternal mental health work, although that wasn't the only thing I was doing at the time. And my husband was traveling a lot for work. He was in a season where he was on the road at least 1 week out of every month, if not more.
That is hard with little ones, too.
Yes. Yeah, that was huge. And I was trying to cook dinner one night, and I had the baby on my hip because he was in one of those places where, everyone has this, where he you couldn't put him down, but he was kind of a kid. He was 11 months old. He wasn't a little one. So I'm cooking dinner one-handed. I'm physically exhausted. My husband's out of town. I've got 2 kids in the other room watching TV. And I just felt so overwhelmed with it all. And it just turned into this guilt spiral. And so I called my mom. And I said, Mom, I feel like I'm drowning all the time. How did you do it? Now, my mother was a doctor and had 4 children. So she kind of was this role model, right? She made it look easy on some level. And her initial response was, I don't know, Ann, it just wasn't that hard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That punch. And I just mumbled something, and I hung up the phone, and I sat on the floor and cried. And I just sobbed for a little while, and, I pulled myself up. I got the dinner on the table. I fed my children. I got them to bed. And something in me, even before I picked up the phone again, I think knew there was something more that I was looking for from her or that I needed, and that there was more to this conversation than what we just said.
Yes.
So I called her back and I said, Mom, why did you say that? That really hurt my.
Good for you.
Yeah. She said, oh, well, that's not what I meant. What I meant was it wasn't hard because I had so much more help. You're trying to do everything by yourself.
Oh
This is
my gosh. That's a huge thing.
right. And then she reminded me, right? They had a full-time nanny that was with us all the time that did help with the laundry. We had a cleaning person. We had 2 sets of grandparents who lived nearby. Now, some of them could not babysit us, but they still were there. And my dad was around a lot and was very, very helpful. Like my father actually, who was also a doctor, had every Tuesday off and would like handle all of the dentist appointments and the orthodontist appointments and would cook dinner that night. Like she had a lot more help than I did. And that's, I think, the seed that started growing and blooming. Then, that baby is now a 12-year-old and over time started kind of ballooning into a whole career of saying, it's not me. I wasn't failing because I was bad at mothering or bad at managing all of the household stuff. I felt like I was drowning because I was asking myself and other people were asking me to do too much without any help. And that's the thing that I find so many women stuck in. And the ambition part comes from the fact that I see so many women being told, well, to just do less is the solution. It's not a fair solution. I don't want to tell women that they have to be less or do less of the things that they want to do. I want to differently and support them better.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you bring up so many great things there, Anne, because first of all, there is so much guilt around even asking for help. It's almost like I have to do this by myself because other women are doing this by themselves. And what is wrong with me that I can't do it by myself? I think that is a big narrative that goes through women's heads. And then the second thing about doing less. I'm pretty ambitious myself. And I have to tell you, if somebody's like, oh, well, maybe it's just not the time to write the book. I'm like, you know what? Screw you. I'm going to go do what I want to do. And I will probably work myself into this overwhelmed mess when I'm doing it just because of that lack of support.
Yeah. And I think especially when the do less is because nobody else is willing to actually help. And by nobody else, mostly workplaces and or spouses, right? But there is the sense of why should we always be the default one to do less?
Right. But so there's also a balance there because a lot of my clients, they are taking on everything in the house, taking the control over everything in the house. So much so it's making sure that the kids are on top of their chores, making sure they're monitoring homework, making sure that if they're going away somewhere, they are meal planning the 6 days they're away, they're prepping everything for their spouse, and they are making sure the house runs smoothly when they're gone. That's the kind of do less conversations I think we should be having instead of the do less with ambitions. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think this is such a key distinction because I think at the heart of my book and a lot of my work is that I want women to be doing things because they want to do them, not out of obligation. Right. And that's the distinction. If I'm doing something because I feel like a bad mom in quotations for not doing it, or I'm doing it out of guilt, or I'm doing it because I think my neighbor's doing it or whatever, that's different than I'm doing it because I genuinely want to do it. Even with the stuff is a really good example, right? My kids are old enough that they could all theoretically make their own lunches, right? They are now 10, 12, 15, and 17. I still make them lunch every day. In part because it feels like a little love letter I can give them in the middle of the day. I've got a kid with food allergies. I know then that he is at least eating something healthy and nourishing in the middle of the day and isn't going to scramble. They could do it themselves. I actively choose to do it. However, they all do their own laundry. That's been something handed off to them. And does that mean their clothes are wrinkled and that they have 2 laundry baskets, a dirty and a clean, and clothes never get put in drawers? Yeah, but that's okay. Right? I've had to let go of some of my own that, but it's okay. Right. And so it isn't about saying do nothing or do everything. It is about being intentional about the things we do, how we hand them off to other people, whether it's our children when they're old enough, or our partners, or outsourcing it, hiring help, etc. there's intention behind all of it. And that feels very good.
I love the intention and that story about the laundry. Oh my gosh. So I have a 12-year-old and a 17-year-old. 17-year-old is just getting ready to go off to college in August. And the 12-year-old, his floor, I can't step on it sometimes because it is covered with clothes. And no matter how many discussions we have about like, hey, like maybe it would be a little bit easier for you to find clean clothes. Like maybe he's like, nope. And I'm like, okay, I'm stepping back from this. This is going to be your issue and your thing to solve.
Yep. Yep. I do try to remember that my own mother, I think, felt the same way about my room in my teen years. And now I'm a functional adult. So it's all going to be okay.
Right. And like having older kids too, it brings you such a perspective on things because you could see how when it's put like in the kids' court and the kids' responsibility, they will take care of it if it bugs them enough. I mean, my daughter, 17, used to have the same thing with her floor. And now she's like, nope, I got to clean it. It's really bothering me. And then she'll have a spotless room. So it's like, there's so much that you can take off yourself as a mom, where if you let your kids experience just a little bit of that discomfort, they take over themselves.
Yes. But I think what's so hard when we're talking about, like with our kids, we can kind of recognize that. It's hard with our partners.
Oh gosh, yes. Yes.
Maybe we have disagreements on what done looks like for our kids or for the house, and it's a shared space. But the other layer I'll put in, especially when we're talking about our partners, is that women are still judged, not men, right?
Yeah.
So let's say we're dividing the chores at home and my husband is going to take on lunch packing, and when my kids were littler, and right, like if he sent a lunch to the preschool that involved, I don't know, like a cookie, and the school had like a no, sweets roll or something like that, guess who gets the phone call if it's wrong, right? Not him, despite the fact that he messages. That's a call to me about it. It becomes then my problem to solve, or I have to talk to him, and there's some sense of guilt because maybe I knew the rule, but it was his responsibility. And it's much messier, I think, because of that. We can still do it. It's just a little more complicated, I think.
You know what I wish existed when my kids were little? Great Wolf Lodge. An indoor water park inside your hotel where it's always 84 degrees, especially living in Phoenix where the sidewalks burn your toes. That would have been amazing. At Great Wolf Lodge, the whole family gets to splash around in a massive indoor water park with a wave pool, a lazy river, and water slides that you can all ride together. But here's what's really cool about it. They also have Magi Quest, which is a live action adventure game kids play throughout the entire lodge. It's like the magic never stops and your kids are always occupied. Between the Northern Lights Arcade, the great dining options, and the complimentary dance parties nightly, there's genuinely something for everyone all under one roof. No packing up and driving somewhere every hour. No, I'm bored. Just connection, fun, and honestly, a little magic for you too. With 22 lodges across the country, there's probably one close to you. Check it out at greatwolf.com and bring your pack together. Growing up, nobody in my house ever talked about money. I'd go to the bank with my dad, but when it came to my own spending, I never had a number. No budget, like no boundaries of any kind, just guessing. And honestly, money has scared me ever since, and it still makes me a little bit anxious sometimes. That's exactly why I started using Monarch. For the first time, I could actually see everything in one place. And I found out almost 15% of our income quietly going to stuff like I couldn't even name, nor could I remember what was purchased. Now I know where every dollar goes, and that anxious feeling has finally started to ease up. My favorite part is the AI weekly recap. It's like having a little financial advisor in your pocket, minus the judgment for my last Target run. Write your own money story with Monarch. Use code NOGUILT at monarch.com to get your first year of Monarch Core half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code NOGUILT. If I got a notification every time my kids spent money, mine would just be daily fried chicken order confirmed from a different place every single time. Funny aside, that's exactly why I like Cash App's managed accounts for kids ages 6 to 12. No hidden fees, no minimum balance. And here's the part that gets me. Their savings habits and money history carry forward from a parent managed account at 6 to a teen account at 13 to a full account at 18. No switching apps, no starting over. If you're ready to start teaching money habits without adding more stress to your plate, download Cash App and set up a managed account for your child today. For a limited time, new Cash App customers who are parents can use our exclusive referral code FAMILY10 to earn $10. Download Cash App, enter the referral code in your profile, send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll receive $10. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Cash App Visa debit flex cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC, and the Bancorp Bank NA pursuant to a license from Visa USA Inc. See terms and conditions for the Sutton prepaid card, Sutton debit flex card, and Bancorp debit flex card. Savings and offers provided by Cash App, a Blanc brand. Parents and legal guardians can open a managed account for kids 6 to 12. Visit cash-app/legal/podcast for full disclosures.
So I'm going to gently push back on that, as is our responsibility to talk to them, because I had this go on in my family. My husband was responsible for packing preschool lunches for my daughter. And one time the preschool called me and was like, so she only has half a bagel in her lunch. And I'm like, oh. And then I said, you should call my husband because he's in charge of lunches. And I was a teacher. I know the dynamic of how it usually works. And in that moment, I took what was my responsibility and I handed it back. And I'm like, listen, I am not the person to talk to about this one. Can you please call my husband and let him know so that he could experience what it's like to get a call from the school and what it's like to actually be held accountable for that lunchtime kind of thing.
Absolutely. That's totally what I would recommend too. It's just that you were still interrupted, right? You're still the first call. So then you're still having to deal with it and take the time and the cognitive effort to push back on the school and all of those things, right? And I think the school maybe eventually catches up or your husband figures it out. But there's that learning process of handing it off that is a little bit different.
There is a learning process, which isn't fair. It's not fair in our society. And that's something like you talk about a lot, how a lot of the pressures that we have, they're really society driven and no fault of our own.
Yeah, we absorb so much messaging as women, even before we become mothers, simply as girls, right? There's a lot of thing that we're picking up on. To be a good, quote, good girl is to do what everybody asks of you. Essentially, we're being kind of told to be people pleasers, right? Read the room, take care of everybody else, emotionally manage everyone, be super empathic. And these aren't like bad things. It's bad when women are told to do that and men are not, right? Like that's the problem. And we have no space for what do you actually want, right? So we come into this earth and we are essentially told our wants are irrelevant. And then you become a mom and there's a whole nother layer added on, right? Of really aren't allowed to say what they want or take care of their own needs, right? Because mothers should all be martyrs.
Uh-huh.
And then, you wake up 30, 40 years into your life and you're like, I don't even know what I want anymore because I've never been allowed to ask that question. So we're just doing the things that everybody else tells us. But those expectations are insane and impossible. And that's where we start to feel like failures all the time.
Yeah, if we can't meet the expectations, it's like there was a guest on the podcast who I quote frequently. Her name's Dr. Jen Reed, and she had something called the guilt equation, where you take your expectations and you subtract reality, and that difference is how much guilt you're going to have in a given situation. So like I was thinking about this last night about expectations put on moms, because like my daughter's getting ready to move out to college. And one thing that she really likes to do is to show me all these videos. And that's not all though, Anne. She makes me sit there. I cannot be distracted whatsoever. I cannot turn my face away from the screen. If I pick up my phone, she'll be like, what are you doing? And she'll like tell me to put it down. Like it is honestly one of the most taxing things I do because my attention is not all there if I am not like interested in something. But the expectations were like, oh my gosh, you should enjoy every single moment with your child. And you should be willing to like sit down with them and watch their stuff. And so my guilt in that situation was pretty high because of it, just because of that expectation. And it's unfair that women are like having that home expectation. And also, they have their own ambitions as well that kind of get stuffed down.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's so much that enjoy every minute, right? It's actually really painful for most
It is
women.
really painful. Mm-hmm.
There's nothing about parenting that is enjoyable 24/7. There are beautiful moments, and we don't have to lose sight of that to not like humans are capable of holding the two things are true. Parenting can be really hard and miserable and challenging and amazing and awe-inspiring and wonderful.
Absolutely, yeah.
Both of those things in the same moment sometimes, certainly within the same day. And it's okay, I think, to have permission to say, I don't know that I actually want to watch this video right now, or I will watch it later when I have the bandwidth or the capacity or the attention span. I'm really distracted right now. And then also there's times when you have a little bit more energy to be like, okay, I'm going to watch this video and really focus on it because it's important to my kid, right? Like it's okay that sometimes one and sometimes the other choice too.
Right, absolutely. You have these 4 prongs in your book, Ambitious Motherhood. Tell us about those.
Yeah. So, it's kind of a book in 4 parts. And the first part is, how did we even get here? Right? Like, why has working motherhood become so impossible? And I call it the escalation of modern motherhood, right? I mean, work is certainly asking more and more and more of us. And most jobs expect you to be accessible 24/7. So that is part of it. But also we're asking mothers to do way more than we ever used to. And I've really seen this play out in real time in my own motherhood journey. And certainly comparing it to my older sister, who's about 10 years older and who had kids 10 years before I did. And kind of the expectations on her as a mom versus what I experienced was remarkably different. It almost feels like the more women achieve at work, the more we're being asked to do at home. Like we keep upping the ante of like, well, can you do this? Can you still work if we ask you to do this? It almost feels intentional. The stats are pretty clear. Women who were at-home mothers in the 1970s spent less time with their children than working mothers do now, right? We're asking mothers to do so much more in terms of emotional regulation, logistics management. It's not just about keep your kid fed and safe, right? It's all of these other things. So the first part really explains that and like, what are all the driving forces here? How does COVID play into it? Social media, etc. The second part is starting to really push back on the story that motherhood is bad for your career and that career is bad for motherhood, right? Right now, there's opposing forces. And really what I demonstrate is that if we look at the research, work can be good for your kids and kids can actually be good for your work, right? Parenting can be a masterclass in leadership. The pillar is like, okay, well, what do we do about that internally? What can we change psychologically, right? Because maybe there's ways we can be different. And I talk about the model of healthy striving, right? Of naming what you're ambitious for, working through perfectionism and people pleasing and all of these tendencies that show up to find a sustainable version of ambition that's true to you. And then the last part is that bigger picture systemic stuff that I've talked about, right? That really needs to change as well. What do workplaces need to do differently to support working mothers? What do partners need to do differently to support their female partners in their motherhood and in their work? Really tries to hit kind of multiple levels, which in and of itself was an ambitious undertaking, right? I'm sure there are holes that I didn't quite get to in all of that, but it's trying to kind of hold a bit of the big picture as well as give women tools, like concrete tools and stories that are applicable in their lives right now. They can kind of experiment with right away.
You know what I wish existed when my kids were little? Great Wolf Lodge. An indoor water park inside your hotel where it's always 84 degrees, especially living in Phoenix where the sidewalks burn your toes. That would have been amazing. At Great Wolf Lodge, the whole family gets to splash around in a massive indoor water park with a wave pool, a lazy river, and water slides that you can all ride together. But here's what's really cool about it. They also have Magi Quest, which is a live action adventure game kids play throughout the entire lodge. It's like the magic never stops and your kids are always occupied. Between the Northern Lights Arcade, the great dining options, and the complimentary dance parties nightly, there's genuinely something for everyone all under one roof. No packing up and driving somewhere every hour. No, I'm bored. Just connection, fun, and honestly, a little magic for you too. With 22 lodges across the country, there's probably one close to you. Check it out at greatwolf.com and bring your pack together. Growing up, nobody in my house ever talked about money. I'd go to the bank with my dad, but when it came to my own spending, I never had a number, no budget, like no boundaries of any kind, just guessing. And honestly, money has scared me ever since, and it still makes me a little bit anxious sometimes. That's exactly why I started using Monarch. For the first time, I could actually see everything in one place. And I found out almost 15% of our income quietly going to stuff like I couldn't even name, nor could I remember what was purchased. Now I know where every dollar goes, and that anxious feeling has finally started to ease up. My favorite part is the AI weekly recap. It's like having a little financial advisor in your pocket, minus the judgment for my last Target run. Write your own money story with Monarch. Use code NOGUILT at monarch.com to get your first year of Monarch Core half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code NOGUILT.
If I got a notification every time my kids spent money, mine would just be daily fried chicken order confirmed from a different place every single time. Funny aside, that's exactly why I like Cash App's managed accounts for kids ages 6 to 12. No hidden fees, no minimum balance. And here's the part that gets me. Their savings habits and money history carry forward from a parent managed account at 6 to a teen account at 13 to a full account at 18. No switching apps, no starting over. If you're ready to start teaching money habits without adding more stress to your plate, download Cash App and set up a managed account for your child today. For a limited time, new Cash App customers who are parents can use our exclusive referral code FAMILY10 to earn $10. Download Cash App, enter the referral code in your profile, send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll receive $10. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Cash App Visa debit flex cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC, and the Bancorp Bank NA pursuant to a license from Visa USA Inc. See terms and conditions for the Sutton prepaid card, Sutton debit flex card, and Bancorp debit flex card. Savings and offers provided by Cash App, a Blanc brand. Parents and legal guardians can open a managed account for kids 6 to 12. Visit cash-app/legal/podcast for full disclosures.
It's so interesting that you say how parenting could be good for your workplace and being a master course in leadership. And I think about that in a situation like that I talk with my husband. Like he is a director and he has to intervene when there are like personality squabbles between his like direct reports. And he's like, I don't know what to do here. Like, I need to figure this out. And like, he's here talking to me about it. But it's almost like settling sibling rivalry is the same as settling kind of things between direct reports. And it's not until you said that did I really make the correlation. But like, how else could parenting be good for your workplace and for your work life?
Yeah. So I have a model that I call the 5 Ps of parental leadership skills, and I won't go into it too much. But one is people skills, and what you just talked about, right? Like your brain gets rewired to be more empathic as a parent. Like that is brain changes, not just for birthing parents. That actually happens in a slightly different mechanism, but for non-birthing parents as well. Right. So already we are going to be more attuned to the needs of others and how to meet them. So there are those kind of people skills, those like hard to teach things that leaders actually need that are all part of executive presence. But we also develop skills in terms of being able to prioritize, right? Like when you have more to do than there is time in the day, which is the experience of motherhood, then you learn real quickly how to discern what is important and what can wait and how to focus on the thing that needs to get done. You also gain skills in efficiency, essentially, right? So it's not only to figure out what needs to be done, I'm able to do it quickly. We have better processing skills, right? Like as a parent, you're constantly drinking from the fire hose and learning all sorts of new information and taking it in. And that's a skill that's incredibly valuable at work. The other thing is that we become really excellent project managers through parenthood, right? think about doing anything as a family, right? And the number of details you have to hold, you have to see the long game as well as how to execute. These are all things you want in your employees, right? So there's all these skills that we're picking up all the time as parents, and we just don't call it leadership because it's happening at the home, but it's incredibly important. And when workplaces start to recognize that, then we can say, oh, parenting isn't a distraction, parenting is a tool, and we can support it.
Oh, absolutely. And when you recognize how it is a tool, I think that gives us less shame in the workplace too. It's like, no, like I'm not distracted outside of work. I'm actually coming with these skills that my other colleagues who may not be parents don't have because they haven't like experienced it and they haven't had to use it in real life. However, there does come to a point where burnout starts to happen. And I have seen cases in some of my coaching clients where at work, they are taking on a lot more than they need to. For example, like if one of their direct reports is struggling with something, they will take on the work instead of like delegating it. First of all, like, have you seen women do this in the workplace?
Absolutely. And I think part of what you're getting at is that it's like compassionate leadership. This is a concept I talk about a lot, right? It involves having empathy for someone's situation, but it also involves having boundaries around what you are taking on, right? The best analogy I can give you is like standing on the side of a swimming pool. If someone's drowning, right, it doesn't help them to get in and start drowning with them, right? You have to understand that they're struggling and you want to throw them a life preserver, but you can't actually get in the pool as a way of getting them out necessarily.
Yeah, true.
And a lot of what we do is we feel empathic towards someone that's struggling and we want to help them. So we take on that work, but then we end up overworking. And I also see a lot of women overworking because that's kind of what got them to a certain point in their career. And it didn't have a place, right? If it's pre-kids, I could outwork any problem. Stay up till 2 a.m, fine. I got you. I can do it and show up the next day and keep working. Part of that is also aging. I can't get away with that in my 40s the way right? But I think there is the sense of this tool of overworking or outworking problems all of a sudden stops being a functional tool when you become a parent. You also have to show up for these kids. And that, I think, is the real point of burnout because we keep trying to use that tool in the workplace and it's not working, but we don't know what else to do because we've never learned what else to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, what are some early signs of burnout as a mom who's also juggling home life and work?
Yeah. I mean, I think so often we think about burnout as like a total collapse, right? I'm so burnt out that I can't get out of bed for 6 weeks. And like, yes, it can get that bad for sure. But I see a lot more women in a place of functional burnout, right? Where they actually are still doing the things, but it's a very different internal experience. They are irritable. They are exhausted. They're numb, right? They just stop. There's no feeling at all. Like they've completely disconnected from their own lives. A lot of times they come in and will say things like, I think I have everything I thought I wanted. Like I got the promotion or I have the 2 kids I wanted or whatever it is. And I am not happy and I don't know what to do about that. And that's more often than not what burnout looks like. It's these kind of subtle things that we're even pretending don't exist for a while because we don't want to actually acknowledge that we're maybe pretty unhappy.
Yeah. Like when you have those early signs of burnout, where do you start?
So again, with this, like, what do we think we have to do versus what do we do? So often I think when we think about burnout, we think we have to blow up our lives to fix it. Oh, I've got to quit my job and I don't know, join a monastery or like
1 month yoga retreat. Yeah.
Those things are like, if you have access to that and please take mental health leave, especially if it's there. Absolutely. However, if you don't have access to that, if it's not bad enough, we don't have to totally upend our lives to have things better. And I use the analogy of thinking about a compass, right? One of my kids is super into Boy Scouts and they use compass, they do orienteering, right? And if they're in the woods and they are off by a compass point of like a couple degrees and they're just walking, 10 or 20 feet, kind of irrelevant, right? Like you're going to be fine. You're going to be at the same tree that you mean to get to, right?
Right.
But if an airplane pilot is on a transatlantic flight and is a couple degrees off on his compass, we're going to land in a very different country. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on what you want. Right. And so I want people to start thinking about what's the 1 degree compass point shift I can make here. I don't have to do anything huge to end up in a different country a few months down the road. And what I find happening is a 1 degree shift becomes compounding. And then there's a 2, and then a 5, and then a 10, right? And so maybe that 1 degree shift is I go to a yoga class once a week. That was mine, right? When I was younger, my kids were little. It was every Saturday morning I started going back to yoga. I had done it all the time before kids, and I took that back. That was 1 hour a week that I started to do differently. And it really shifted the course around permission for myself to be away from my kids, to do things I enjoy doing, to be in my body, right? All sorts of wonderful things came from that. It didn't feel like much at the time, but I can tell you in hindsight that that was it. But maybe the 1 degree compass shift for you is asking for help. It's maybe saying, no, I don't want to be on the PTA anymore. I'm going to drop this thing, or turning down a project at work, or saying yes to a project at work simply because it excites you, right? It could be a yes to something, it could be no to something, but it's just one thing where you feel like you have some choice over it, and that helps you reconnect to yourself.
And it gives you back that control of your own life. I did this like in September. I decided to start taking improv classes. And you're totally right. Like it gives you a renewed, like, kind of viewpoint of how much time you can take away, how much your kids can do by themselves, how your spouse can kind of come in and relieve you, and also how they could support you, like doing your thing and having your fun as well. So I love that. Just the 1 degree shift. How can moms kind of redefine ambition without feeling like they're settling or they're losing their edge? Because like burnout, it's going to happen, but like, how could they redefine it so that like it's doable?
Yeah. And I think this is actually true for all of us, right, in this world, that we have really like rigid rules around what we think ambition is. The definition of ambition is really more about going after something, but we've really confined it to going after money, status, and power. Those are the
Yeah.
only, right? And we use that career ladder metaphor, right, where you just climb rung after rung towards those things. And if you are not climbing towards those things, you are not ambitious. You have failed, you have fallen off the ladder, you've given up, etc. Right? It's this really rigid thinking about ambition. And what I ask moms to do, and again, really everybody, because this is actually not even just a mom thing, is to think about ambition much more broadly than that. And really, instead of visualizing the ladder, to visualize a web, right? Think about one of those playground webs if you've seen your kids on them, and they are climbing in every which way. They change directions all the time. They're hanging upside down. Probably someone's eating a snack, like you can sit and rest. That can be a version of ambition too, with room for pivots, direction change, and lots of different outcomes. So it could still be those money, status, power, but it could also be connection or playfulness or creativity or impact or rest or peace or quiet, right? Anything that is something that you are truly wanting to go after can be part of how you think of ambition. And I know I had to grapple with that a lot when I had been really ambitious for achievement in much of my life. And I had kind of worked my way up to a job at Harvard. It was my dream job. I had the like name brand recognition that felt real good to that achievement oriented part of myself. And when I left, I felt really adrift around and really grappled with like, what does this say about me if I don't have kind of that achievement ambition as part of my identity anymore? And that's when I really started grappling with this question of how do we want to shift our thinking about ambition? Can I still be ambitious, even with, quote, just a small private practice, even if the job I have right now is caring for my young children? And there was something very healing in that frame. And now my ambition is much more public again, and it is to have a big impact. And again, it's like this pivot over time as we change, as our kids' lives change, and throughout the rest of our lives.
Yeah, it's funny because my husband and I are having these discussions about retirement because he's like, I mean, he's only 45 and he's like, I am so done. But like he talks about it, he's like retirement and like changing jobs or like leaving a job or whatever. It always needs to be something that you are going towards instead of something that you are stopping doing.
Yes, absolutely.
Because if it's just like stopping work, it's going to end up being like depression and everything because you have nothing to fill that place in your life.
Yes, because we don't have to actually say we're stopping, right? Like, and I see this with people that are retiring where depression does show up because it's like, well, I don't know what's my purpose, right? And it can just be a shift in direction rather than a stop in movement.
Yeah, absolutely. So if a mom listening today who feels like she's failing at absolutely everything, what's the one thing that you want her to hear?
I think the biggest thing that I want her to hear is that you are not failing. You are in a system that is not supporting you. You are doing an amazing job and that you matter, right? What you want matters. So often, I think when we feel that feeling of failure, we get really focused on do I deserve things? And we start, do I desire things? And we
Oh,
there permanently almost, it feels like. And I want women to reframe back to what is it that I desire? I deserve it because I am here, full stop. We don't have to ask that question anymore. And so when we start focusing on what it is that we desire, we can reconnect with joy and purpose and meaning and fulfillment. And it's a much better place to live, right? And it models something so different for our children too, right? So even if
absolutely.
for you, can you do it to show your kids that they matter, that they don't have to ask whether they deserve it, that they can just so say, here's what I want and go after.
Ah, absolutely. That's exactly what we here at No Guilt Mom are all about. Be the model, not the martyr. Go after something you want. Well, and you have your book coming out. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, so it's called Ambitious Mother, From Surviving to Thriving in Your Career and at Home, and it's coming out August 6th. But if you pre-order it prior to that date, there are some amazing bonuses that you can get on my website, which is drannwelsh.com. There is an ebook on this. It's called A Day in Her Life that talks you through the days of a lot of different amazing working moms and what does that look like and what can we learn
Ooh, I
from it.
love that.
Some guided meditations that are all super brief, some 2-minute guided meditations for different sticky situations in your life. And there are also some scripts for difficult conversations, including how to talk about the division of labor at home with your partner, which we were talking about earlier today, because those conversations can be really hard to have.
I love it. I love it, Anne. So everybody go out and get Ambitious Mother. And thank you, Anne, so much for joining us today on the
Hey,
podcast.
this was really fun.
Remember, the best mom is a happy mom. Take care of you, and we'll talk to you later.
If you'd like to support the show further, you can share episodes with your loved ones, leave a positive review, or follow us on social media at No Guilt Mom. You could also show your love by visiting our amazing podcast sponsors. We have a link in the show notes.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.